While I was streaming a few days ago, Frag do not ask my opinion about Merciless. And that's pretty much how the 3 worst days I've ever had on Division started. Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. My name is Rafael and I hope you're having a fantastic day. The last 3 days I've been trying to make a Merciless build that I could recommend to you. However, I still haven't figured out a way to make this exotic not suck. You see, when I create a build video, the build needs to be either very fun to play with or pretty effective, at least from my standards. If the build is both of these things, then even better. The Merciless, however, cannot fit in any of these 2 descriptions, at least not consistently. And what I mean by that is that it can be a fun weapon to play with. However, in order for that to happen, everything needs to go the right way. Otherwise, it turns from a fun to play with weapon to an awful experience really fast. Before I explain what I mean and get more into why this is the worst exotic in the entire game, let's take a look at the weapon and the build. Merciless comes with rifle damage, critical hit damage and critical hit chance, and the talent that it has, it's called binary trigger. This weapon fires on trigger pull and release. If both bullets hit the same enemy, gain a stack. At 7 stacks, shooting an enemy deals plus 500% amplified damage and creates a 7-meter explosion dealing 500% weapon damage consuming all stacks. The talent is actually quite good. It is as interesting as it sounds and it really is powerful, especially the plus 500% amplified bullet. The explosion, on the other hand, is really not that important, not that effective in my opinion. However, it's not the worst talent in the game. Side note here, I want to point out that the explosion damage does not increase by explosive damage attributes. I want to point this out because there seems to be some confusion around if explosive damage attributes increase the explosion damage. I compared 2 builds, one with full weapon damage and 0 explosive damage, and another one with 40% explosive damage and lower weapon damage. The first one, with the 0% explosive damage and the higher weapon damage, offered higher explosion damage. The talent description reads, and creates a 7-meter explosion dealing 500% weapon damage. So if you want to increase the explosion damage, you must increase your weapon damage, not your explosive damage. Moving on to the build, I have 2 Walker Harris pieces for the 5% weapon damage and the 5% damage to armor, Contractor's Gloves for the 8% damage to armor, Fox Sprayers for the 10% rifle damage and the 8% damage targets out of cover, a Grupo Sombra for the 15% critical hit damage, and a Provident Defense piece for the 10% headshot damage. Now that that's out of the way, let's talk about all the weaknesses this exotic has and why I consider it to be the worst exotic in the entire game. Starting off, the first thing I noticed was how much of a kick the second bullet had. It's close to impossible to get stacks without investing to some weapon handling. I tried using Brace on my chest piece for the 45% weapon handling behind cover, but not long after I realized that Brace is reducing my damage by a lot, so I changed to Perfect Glass Cannon and got myself a lot of weapon handling attributes, reaching a total of 48% weapon handling. After I sorted out the recoil issues, more problems started showing up. You see, a good red build with glass cannon has literally 0 survivability. After 3 to 4 hits, you're dead, and a lot of new players, or at least not veterans in quotes, think that that's a bad thing. I say new players simply because people who have been playing this game for 4 years at this point remember when Warlords of New York came out, how everybody was running around only with red builds and nobody was complaining about, I have 0 survivability, because people understand that the whole point is to kill enemies before they can kill you. You don't have to worry about how much armor you have if you can kill everyone before they actually get a chance to ruin your armor. With being a good player, using cover to your advantage, knowing how to pick and when to pick out, having a revive hive, a shield and 10 armor on kill from the gun specialization are all things that are gonna help a glass cannon build actually survive. However, as I already stated, the most important part of a glass cannon or even a red build is to be able to kill enemies fast. The Carbine 7 or the Police 4 or the classic M1A rifle can all do that because they have high damage, high RPM, easy to control recoil and things like that. Merciless, on the other hand, cannot. Too many times I found myself dying because an enemy pushed me and I didn't have the DPS to take him down before he did. Classic M1A kills enemies with 4 shots, Merciless doesn't. So the glass cannon idea obviously wasn't working out. Then Litron came in the chat and suggested I should give Obliterate a shot, and he was right. Obliterate will give me 25% total weapon damage, which is not as good as the 30% amplified damage, but at least I have a little bit more survivability, which balanced things out. After that was solved and I was a little bit more happy with how much hits we could actually take, the third and biggest issue appeared, and that was the base damage of the weapon. It's simply too low. Merciless can become really fun and quite decent weapon, I would say, when you can actually maintain a constant farm of stacks. What I mean by farm is getting your 7 stacks, resetting them, and then doing it again and again and again in a very short period of time. This way you can get your 500% amplified bullet, which literally hits like a truck and will most likely kill the enemy you're shooting at, but also your explosion for the AoE damage. However, the stats of the weapon allow this to happen only under very specific circumstances. It's not very easy to maintain that farm. You see, everything about this weapon when it comes to the stats is average at best. Using this weapon at long ranges is a big no-no, so we have to get closer, because getting stacks at longer ranges will be a pain in the ass, even though we have a decent scope on Merciless. Moving to medium to short ranges, it also means that enemies will have an easier time hitting us. We will have a much harder time surviving, so to say, and even though we're not running the glass cannon anymore, I found myself dying a lot of times because a fire grenade dropped on me and I had to pop a medkit, and while I was doing that, an enemy pushed me, and when he was around the corner and we started facing each other, I just didn't have the damage to take him down before he took me down. If 2 enemies decide to push you at the same time, even if you don't have to use a medkit, so you're shooting at them at the same time, you might not be able to take them down before they come and take you down. If somebody shot you in the back, you're dead. A build with a shield will count on the shield to keep him alive. An armor regeneration or a bonus armor build will count on that armor coming in and keeping them alive. A skill build will count on their skills to kill enemies, or on their skills to heal them and keep them alive. A red build counts on killing enemies so you can get out of a bad situation. Are you trying to do a control point and a patrol appears right behind you? The only option that he has is to kill that patrol before they kill him. That's it. You don't have other options. You can't go behind cover because you're surrounded. If you try to pop a medkit, it doesn't really matter because it will be gone by the time you're done putting it on. So the only viable option for you is to actually kill them before they kill you. And with all my red builds, all the red builds I've showcased in the channel are actually able to do that. That's of course if you have a decent level of accuracy. Merciless is the only weapon that I've played with on a red build that is simply not able to do that consistently. If something goes wrong with Merciless, the chances of you actually dying are much higher than any other weapon I've played with a full red build. So you might say, why didn't you go with a blue build? Because, well, if Merciless with full red build doesn't have enough damage to kill enemies, I don't even want to try out to see how much damage it has when I have a bunch of blue cores in there. So in my honest opinion, I think that if they want to make Merciless a viable weapon, they need to go back and rework it. What I would do, first of all, make the explosion damage scale off from explosive damage, so that would allow for some more hybrid build, so to say. You could go with, you know, a couple of channel light pieces with 2 Grupo Sombra pieces with demolition, some secret mines that are also gonna benefit from that explosive damage. With, you know, Picker's Holster now in the game, you can equip that and go for 2 pieces of that brand set. You get the extra skill tier. You can do all sorts of things if the explosion damage from the weapons talent is actually scaling off of explosive damage and not weapon damage. Second suggestion would obviously be to increase the base damage of the weapon. It makes no sense to play with a weapon that has poor weapon handling, poor weapon damage, isn't good at long ranges. It's average at best at closer ranges. It has a pretty bad RPM, I would say. And the talent on it doesn't reward you for all this. If the talent actually rewards you for, having to deal with all those negatives that this weapon comes with, then I would be okay, just leave it as it is. It's fine. However, the talent is a constant race for you to get those 7 stacks. So when you get the 7 stacks, you can actually kill enemies and the weapon starts to actually feel more fun and more powerful. Before that, the weapon really feels like it's underperforming and it really isn't worth using. So make explosion damage scale off from explosive damage stats, and then increase the base damage of the weapon so it doesn't feel like a complete joke when you're shooting at enemies without full stacks. So yeah, that's it pretty much. A different sort of video, not a build video in any sense, but more of, a commentary type of why I think this exotic is by far the worst one. Let me know down below in the comment section if you have played with the Merciless. How did you like it? Do you agree with me? Do you not? Have you found a build which allows Merciless to not feel like complete dog shit? Thank you very much for watching the video, guys. If you enjoy the content and you want to support the channel, make sure to subscribe and to like the video. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Bye bye.